Roger Ailes' network takes plenty of flack in the seemingly endless cable wars, and this past week the Fox News chairman got a chance to return fire. Ailes made a rare television appearance on ABC's This Week with Barbara Walters in the host chair, and Arianna Huffington took the opportunity to give him an earful. The subject, Glenn Beck, who in just a year has emerged as the channel's biggest lightning rod. Here's how the exchange went.
Aren't you concerned about the language that Glenn Beck is using, which is, after all, inciting the American people? There's a lot of suffering out there, as you know, and when he talks about people being slaughtered, about who is going to be the next in the killing spree...
Well, he was talking about Hitler and Stalin slaughtering people, so I think he was probably accurate. Also,
no, he was talking about this administration.
I think if we start going around as the word police in this business, it will be...
it's not about the word police. It's about something deeper. It's about the fact that there is a tradition, as the historian Richard Hofstadter said, in American politics, of the paranoid style.
I agree with you. I read something on your blog that said I looked like J. Edgar Hoover, I had a face like a fist, and I was essentially a malignant tumor.
So is this a case of holding Fox News accountable or just another squabble between the left and the right? Joining us now here in L.A. is Arianna Huffington, the co-founder and editor of the Huffington Post. And Hugh Hewitt, nationally syndicated radio talk show host and executive editor of townhall.com. Arianna, you went after Roger Ailes about Glenn Beck, as we just saw. Is Beck the only loudmouth on TV saying irresponsible things?
No, but what's happening with Glenn Beck is he takes these apocalyptic statements that basically fuel people's fear and anxiety and has made them his stock and trade. Literally, practically no show is done without some kind of form of inciting fear in the American people. And I think that is dangerous, especially at a time like this.
Hugh Hewitt, do you find Arianna's outrage to be somewhat selective?
No, I don't. I think she's always been focused on Fox, so it's just like a laser. This is what she does all the time. And it's increasingly silly. I've known Arianna for years, but the idea that Glenn is inciting a dangerous element in the United States, I think that's silly. I think that Arianna knows that no one watches, takes notes, and acts on what Glenn Beck does. He did use the word slaughter. You were right. Roger was wrong.
But they denied it.
Well, he didn't know that.
Yeah, he denied it, and Glenn Beck denied it the day after.
Let me clear that up by playing, first of all, what Glenn Beck said on his radio show about your appearance on ABC the next day, and then some sound from his program back in November on this semantic question. Let's watch.
I don't even know if I've ever used the word slaughtered. And if I used the word slaughtered, if it wasn't in a context of Mao, Stalin, or Hitler, it was in the idea that the truth is being slaughtered by this administration. Not saying that this administration is going to slaughter anyone.
Find the exit closest to you and prepare for a crash landing, because this plane is coming down because the pilot is intentionally steering it into the trees. We will thrive as long as these people are not in control. They are taking you to a place to be slaughtered.
So it's unambiguous. And then if it doesn't matter, why did Roger Ailes deny it falsely? And then why did Glenn Beck deny it for 2 days, even though the video is out there on the Huffington Post a day after the show?
Well, Hugh, you seem to be saying that Glenn Beck perhaps says some intemperate things, but people don't take it seriously?
Proportionate. I think Glenn does about 15 hours of media a week. He used this, I think, before Christmas time. I believe that was before Christmas time. Arianna goes on a show with Roger Ailes, brings up a single word from 6 weeks ago, expects Roger to understand it, declares that to be falsehood. That just doesn't hold up his logic. What he was talking about in that exchange was Andy Stern's SEIU speech, where Andy used the term workers of the world unite. And if we applied the same standard to Andy Stern that Arianna is attempting to apply to Glenn Beck, you could put Andy Stern in a very, very deep, dark corner with a lot of radical people who have been communists over the years. I think I don't think it's responsible. I think we need to focus on the overall content of arguments made in public with a fairness and an accuracy that encompasses the fact that if you talk for 30 hours a week, you're going to use the word slaughter, and you're going to use it sometimes without even knowing it. And I don't think we ought to focus on those individual things. We ought to focus on what Glenn Beck and why he is so popular. Why do you think he's so popular?
Well, Glenn Beck, first of all, let me just correct something. This is not an isolated word. On the same show, I talked about him asking his audience, who is going to be the next victim of a killing spree? I just have here a handful of quotes from him, talking about what Al Gore is doing, being equivalent to what Hitler did, and leading to the final solution. This is his talk and trade, talking about the fact that everything that the administration is doing is frightening, taking us to fascism, Marxism. I mean, all that is completely paranoid.
But
I
let me jump
believe
in
that
here.
there is a reason why there is an exception in the First Amendment to yelling fire in a crowded theater. This is a crowded and anxious country. And he's just going on repeating the statements.
Let me come back to this question of whether you apply the same standards. Rahm Emanuel, White House Chief of Staff, said at a private meeting some months ago, he used the word retarded, talking about a Democratic idea. I think the exact quote was blanking retarded.
Right.
He's now apologized. You were asked about that on MSNBC. You said, oh, this is political correctness. Let's not talk about it. Why not apply the same standard to Rahm?
First of all, saying that a group of supposedly your supporters are expletive deleted, retarded, is a very different category than what we are discussing here. Personally, I think you should not have used it. But it's not the kind of firing offense that Sarah Palin made it out to be.
Well, once again, selective use of a particular standard. I'd like to know what the standard is. I like the Brandenburg decision, which is you must have the intention to incite, you must have the present ability to incite, and otherwise the First Amendment says let 1,000 flowers bloom. Arianna, we just got to give this up. I think it's important that the ideas that Beck puts forward, or O'Reilly puts forward, or Rush, or Sean, or me put forward be debated. And the reason that the left is missing the boat, the reason they don't understand the Tea Parties, the reason they don't understand Sarah Palin, is they're focused on trying to score points as opposed to understand what the American people are saying. And you still haven't answered my question. Why is Fox so popular?
I'm very happy to answer your question. First of all, I actually have said that the Tea Party movement should be taken seriously, that a lot of what they're saying is based on legitimate grievances. I've said that and I've written about it. In terms of why Fox is so popular, Roger Ailes is a great producer. Glenn Beck is a great showman. Anytime you appeal to people's emotions at a time of fear and anxiety, you're going to do well because people are looking for scapegoats.
They did well during any period of time, Arianna. They haven't ever done well.
Now.
All right, let me turn to someone else. I'm not putting him in the same category, but MSNBC's Keith Olbermann got a lot of flack for this comment that we're about to play. This was the day before the special election in Massachusetts won by Scott Brown. Olbermann was, shall we say, not a fan of Scott Brown.
In short, in Scott Brown, we have an irresponsible, homophobic, racist, reactionary, ex-new model, teabagging supporter of violence against women and against politicians with whom he disagrees.
You have any problem with that? Did Huffington Post criticize that?
Jon Stewart criticized him. And
what about Arianna Huffington?
I don't know if you saw that after that, Keith Olbermann said that he had gone over the top.
Over the top, and he apologized.
When was the last time Glenn Beck said he had ever gone over the top? And also, you can put out there thousands of emotional, passionate statements Keith Olbermann has made based on fact. This is the fundamental distinction. Passion and emotion based on fact versus passion and emotion a la Glenn Beck based on fantasy and fabrication.
I've only been worst person in the world twice, and so I'm going for the hat trick right now. If I could, I would give Keith a 24/7 cable channel because he's the greatest thing in the world for conservative values and Republicans, other than Joe Biden, who I would like to give a 24/7 cable channel to. He's a joke. He's recognized as a joke. His ratings have gone through the floor because he's a sportscaster who doesn't know anything. But I would
doesn't
never.
know anything.
He doesn't know anything. Come on, get him engaged sometime in a conversation. He falls on his face. He doesn't know a thing about politics. He knows sports. He gets fed prompter copy. He reads great prompter copies like our president in some respects. But if you put Keith...
I don't think that's fair.
I bet you have never... This is unbelievable. I bet you have never really watched the show. Maybe you read the
I watch Countdown all the time.
He's the worst person. All right, I want to get to one more topic because we could spend another hour and a half on this. Sarah